Welcome back to another episode of the Goonery, back after a week off last week. Whole lot to talk about. We have Super Bowl preview breakdown, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, and then a little Royal Rumble recap, road to WrestleMania. But first and foremost, we have to talk the biggest story in sports right now. LeBron James, at 38 years old, broke the all-time scoring record. Brandon, as a Laker fan, I want to start with your thoughts, and I have a take on last night's performance as well, but I want to let you fire off first.
So I have a main point about the whole dynamic between Jordan and LeBron, because that's really what the conversation that's been sparked since he broke the record. But I'm going to leave that, later on in the conversation. But last night's record-breaking performance was a bit bittersweet. And I think you saw that with Anthony Davis, where he was on the bench and not really giving a damn about him breaking the record, at least not on camera. Mm-hmm. And the main reason is because regardless of him breaking the record, it was 10 seconds left in the third quarter, and they end up losing the game. And even afterwards, LeBron only scored 2 points, and they lose. So it's one of those things where it sucks because they lost the game, but I don't want to harp on that too much. LeBron James came to the league in 2003, and I was not young enough to really understand why everybody was calling him the chosen one. And, you're in an era where there is Kobe Bryant, there's Shaquille O'Neal, there's Allen Iverson, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, and you were expecting at that time for those guys to be the faces of the league, which Kobe Bryant was for a period of time. But everybody else, you're just like, yeah, those are going to be the next guys that are going to lead us into the next era of basketball. And then it wasn't Carmelo Anthony, it wasn't Dwayne Wade, it wasn't even Darko Milicic, it was LeBron James. And the fact that we have watched him throughout his entire career consistently dominate, it's insane to me to put into perspective what I watched last night, because it's like, man, this is truly a culmination of everything I have seen him go through when he was an 18-year-old prodigy, and now he is the most talented basketball player, arguably the most talented athlete of all time.
Yeah, and I truly do believe that the LeBron debate does not begin with the most talented basketball player of all time, but the most talented athlete of all time.
Right.
Because what he has been able to do for 20 years now, it's been unparalleled.
Yeah.
He is still producing at the highest level. And I understand last night was the game that everyone said leading up to it, this is when he's going to break the record, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knew going into last night he was going to break the scoring record. I don't care. It still goes to show you. I think how unselfish of a player LeBron truly is, because if LeBron last night showed me that if LeBron wants to be the most dominant scorer on the planet, he could have been the most dominant scorer on the planet the entire time he has been in the NBA. This record could have been broken years ago. Could you imagine LeBron on the Heat if he decided, fuck it, I don't want to be that facilitator who's averaging 10 assists a game and putting up 30 points? He could have been scoring 40 plus a night, and we wouldn't have blinked an eye.
Yeah.
Because he would have been putting up 40 and 5 assists instead of 25 to 30 and 8 assists. I mean,
yeah.
It goes to show you, though, because the best part about LeBron James' game is truly his basketball IQ. We're never going to see another player in the NBA on his level. And I truly do believe that. And being a Chicago guy, it feels sacrilegious saying this, but it's hard to not start to concede that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time. And I know, and I'm not just basing this off of scoring numbers, right? I mean, it's not.
It's impossible to do so.
Exactly. And LeBron is going to finish top 2 all time in assists.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is more impressive considering what type of player he is than the scoring, if we're being completely honest. And This is a whole lot like the NFL quarterback debate you have. There's the greatest and there's the best. Michael Jordan might be a greater player than LeBron, but LeBron is the most talented player that has ever stepped foot onto an NBA court. And I don't even think it's close.
So I'm glad you brought that up because that's a perfect segue into the point that we were discussing earlier through text. And when Tom Brady retired last week, there were a lot of conversations, and it wasn't about questions about his legacy or if anything was tainted. There was a conversation that I was listening with very, very close close interest because it was interesting because I never thought about it this way. Tom Brady has won 7 Super Bowls. Tom Brady is widely considered the greatest of all time, regardless of position.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about the quarterbacks that are the greats, there's a legitimate question of what does Tom Brady do better than most? Is it arm talent? Is it arm accuracy? Is it reading defenses? Is it just being a winner? And I'm going to be really honest with you. The best thing that Tom Brady has been is being a winner.
Yep.
So when we talk about that, it's interesting because when we talk about GOAT debates in basketball, but which by the way I absolutely hate because when we talk about GOATs in basketball, we want to down the other to uplift and lift up the other.
Yep.
And it's terrible. I that's why I hate the debates. Now listen, this is how I see it. Michael Jordan is, to me, still the greatest of all time, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because if you put up a whole body of work together in terms of him winning 6 finals and being top 5 in scoring all time, that's a really, really, really hard thing to beat. And the thing is, I will not. The way I set it up is who's the greatest, who's the most talented. I don't think there's any question in anybody's mind that LeBron James is the most talented basketball player of all time. But sometimes the resumes have to line up. And guess what? I'm here to tell y'all something. If Michael Jordan never retired, LeBron James would not be breaking Kareem's record. It would be Michael Jordan's record. So to think about him winning 6 NBA finals, all the MVPs, all the defensive players of the years, and all that he's done, he did that while taking a break. And it's crazy to think about that.
Minor league baseball. To go play minor league baseball. He wanted to play baseball.
He stunk at it, and he said, I'm going to go back to what I'm best at. So I think the GOAT debate is as close as it's ever been because of this record that LeBron broke. But from a full body of work, Jordan's still that guy. To me.
No, I mean
it's not a close margin at all. It is a very close margin, excuse me.
And it's just interesting because now the question becomes, I think, is anyone going to break LeBron's record at any point? And I don't think so. I don't think anyone will even come close because think about it. LeBron has been very much on the record that he wants to play in the NBA with Bronny. He wants to play on an NBA court with his son. And because of who LeBron is, regardless of how good Bronny ends up being in college, he will end up on an NBA roster if that means LeBron James can be there. And it sucks to say that. Bronny could end up having a very good NBA career. He's a highly rated prospect. I know people want to dump on him. I think he's still a top 30 or 40 prospect in the class. And he's obviously very talented. I mean, you can't say that NBA star players' kids are automatically shoo-ins to make the league. Look at Michael Jordan Jr. The dude went to UCF and sucked so bad.
His kids got cooked by Eric Gordon, and you knew the look on Jordan's face had every writing on the wall possible.
Yep. And so realistically, I don't think Bronny will be a one and done guy. I don't. I think wherever he ends up playing, I think he'll be there. I was debating this at lunch today at work with some coworkers, and we were talking, and one person thinks that he's not even going to end up going to college and thinks he's going to just go straight to the G League route and be there for a cup of coffee, end up on the Lakers, which Very well could happen. I'm still not doubting that. I personally think that not that obviously he needs no money. He does not have to play in the NBA. His children don't have to work a day in their life, and their children will not have to work a day in their life. I still do think, as crazy as it sounds, Bronny will want to have some type of his own legacy in the NBA. I've seen the quotes from him that, I wish people didn't know who my dad was. Well, guess what? Your name is LeBron James Jr. You going by Bronny's, not changing a thing, but not changing a thing, pal. But realistically, LeBron's gonna end up retiring with the 45 to 47,000 point range, I bet. And it's untouchable. Untouchable.
It is crazy to think because I know that LeBron's availability has died down over the past couple of seasons, and some due to resting, some due to injuries. It's like it happens. You're like 38 years old. You're gonna want to slow down a bit, especially when you're the face of the league. Like no one's really gonna bat an eye at that. But for him to get in the 45,000 range, no one's beating that.
No.
And the thing is too, it's very early to project that because the trajectory of the league is kind of crazy if you think about it. Because when Michael Jordan retired, LeBron came into the league, and you wonder who's going to be that next guy. Because if you had to guess someone in the league right now that could even threaten the scoring record, you've had two guys in mind. But the problem is, with both guys, they're not even playing right now because they're hurt. You talk about Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant. And I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know if there's going to be talents like that to come through the league again.
I do have one more player that I don't think his body holds up long term.
I think I know what you're about to say.
Luka Doncic.
I
realistically, just with the way he plays the game, I genuinely think he has as good of a shot as anyone who is in the NBA right now and who will be entering the NBA in the foreseeable future. He just has that, just the volume of shots he takes alone, right?
Yeah.
The offense completely runs through him. It's going to be really interesting to see how it works with Kyrie down there. I don't know what to expect. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but he's also someone I don't want to dump on a professional athlete because I have no room to talk here, but he's just a guy. Will his body hold up long term? He's not in the best of shape. You see him every off season. He looks like an everyday guy, and I don't know if that's sustainable. I mean, look at LeBron's body at 38 years old. Luka dreams about having that type of body at any age in his life. And LeBron's probably not happy with how his body looks and feels at 38. And that's the difference. That's the difference.
And the Luka point that you bring up, I find it very ironic because he is what you call sort of a throwback player. And the reason is that if you look at the athletes that were playing in the era of the 80s, 90s, they said, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want in the offseason, and then I'll just flip the switch when the season starts. The problem with that is the way he plays, he ain't no bruiser. He's not some goon that teams in the 80s and 90s had. His game is about shooting the basketball. He can drive. He's good at driving. He can assist the ball. But we are wowed by the shots that he makes. That's why he's been the most popular player in the league for some time. He could threaten it, and you know something, if this particular player did not make so many moves in his career, he could be threatening it right now. I think James Harden could have had that record. He could have threatened that record. Probably not now, considering who he has to defer to now in Philadelphia. But if he stood on the pace of being with the Rock, there was a time where you were really, really wondering if he was one of the greatest scorers that NBA has ever seen. And granted, that is still up for discussion.
I still think he is in that, very rightfully so, in that discussion.
Yeah.
And he's another guy who just kind of let the body go. I know the jokes were online about Fat Harden, but it was a very real thing, man.
Yeah.
But it's the reason too. I know this is probably a shitty comparison with Luca, but you see him get compared to Larry Bird all the time. Just that they're never the most athletic guy in the court, but yet they can score at will.
Yeah.
They'll outsmart you. They're just scrappy. Luca, if he was playing in that era, would be right up there with Jordan, I bet, in all time scoring numbers. And I don't even think it would be close.
Which is funny too, because people seem to forget how great Larry Bird actually was.
Yep.
It's crazy to me, but that's how it goes. Because I mean, even with Kareem had he had the scoring record for damn near
almost
4 decades, almost 4 decades, and people still had questions whether he was the greatest of all time. And obviously, his size has something to do with it, and the level of competition. Which, by the way, the argument that people have when you bring up level competition, we know that players are more athletic, but I am in no way in favor of people discrediting an era because of what the resources they were given. It's unfair and it's ignorant as hell, because that is really the problem with all types of fandom, is that we don't like to appreciate greatness. We like to dissect everything with all these stupid numbers and all these stupid facts about how in this particular game on the 5th of February, they shot 4 for 16. But that's what fandom does. And that's why basketball fandom is the worst. And that's why I do not like having GOAT conversations for that particular reason.
No, it's very valid. So kind of shifting away from basketball here, moving into the Super Bowl. There's someone who, if he wins this game, is shoving himself into the GOAT conversation already, and that's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
If the Chiefs win a Super Bowl here this Sunday against the Eagles. I don't know what your thoughts are on this game. Both teams are just operating at a different level right now. This is probably going to be one of the more entertaining Super Bowls we've seen in quite some time, I think. Just really good matchup, all facets of the game. But I really do just expect the Chiefs to not handle the Eagles, but the disrespect they're getting in Vegas right now is kind of baffling to me.
So I had a lot of conversations about the Super Bowl with my friends and stuff like that. And one thing that was kind of agreed upon universally was that the Eagles have had the easiest route to the Super Bowl. Now, there's two sides to this.
You have to play who's in front of you. That's what that comes down to, in my opinion.
And that's my first part. The first part is what a great team is going to do? They're going to beat the brakes off of a team that's lesser. And that's the way it goes. If you don't, and if they struggle with it, it's still damned if you do, damned if you don't. Number two, it's kind of the truth. And which is interesting when you talk about a matchup with the team that is the number one seed in the AFC, and that I wrote off because I thought Cincinnati just really had their number. And I thought they just was not going to be that team, but they end up being that team. They was that team that, we did the same thing with the Eagles. We said, maybe, just maybe the Giants have a chance. Yep. We said, maybe, just maybe the San Francisco 49ers had a chance, granted, given the circumstances. Yeah. But we did that. But we also did that with the Chiefs as well. And I think that with how the Chiefs offense has operated, even in the case of Patrick Mahomes being on 1.5 ankle, it's crazy to me how he commanded that Bengals game. We didn't even get to talk about this much, but he commanded that game as if nothing really happened to him against Jacksonville. So when I think about that, and I weigh Patrick Mahomes' performance on the scale of Jalen Hurts' performance, I'm gonna be honest with you. The RPO system has worked very, very well for Jalen Hurts now more than ever because of his shoulder injury. If you put Jalen Hurts in a position where he has to throw, I'm going to tell you something. if you stop the run game of the Eagles, the Chiefs are going to be very, very happy with that. The Eagles have ran the ball down everyone's throats in this postseason, and it has worked. But there's going to be a time where the Eagles are going to have to rely on the pass game to win this game. That's going to be, and I think it's going to be this game.
And I do agree with you there. And I mean, they have used all three of their running backs on that, their three main running backs on their team: Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders, perfectly this offseason. Postseason, excuse me. But when it comes down to pace of play here, I don't see them being able to do that, because the Chiefs, I understand how good the Eagles defense has been. I fully get it. But they haven't faced a Patrick Mahomes. They have not faced a Patrick Mahomes.
Or anything close.
No, not even the same universe.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to throw the ball to keep up here. So I really do think it's going to come down, like you said, to be it's going to be a test on Jalen Hurts' shoulder. I know that he says it's okay. Throwing shoulder, I mean, that lingers. That just doesn't go away. And I have a hard time believing the amount of big hits he took against the 49ers. The repetition of throwing the football, you're not going to heal properly.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they say he's fine. Would not be surprised to see if he opts to have surgery after the Super Bowl here. And I don't think anyone should be surprised by that. But the thing is with the Eagles, they cannot allow themselves to fall into a hole early here.
Yeah.
Because if they are able to control the pace of play, like we've seen them do and be successful at, they can keep playing their game and they're fine. They just not fall victim to playing Patrick Mahomes' game. And that it doesn't sound like a lot. Just, don't let them play their game. Well, guess what? You try and stop Patrick Mahomes. I see the first quarter being a shaky start for the Eagles solely off of nerves.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Hurts has been in the big game before at the college football level. I get that. He's been in big game atmospheres. There's no bigger atmosphere in football than the Super Bowl. Mahomes has been there. He's won. He knows what it takes. And ultimately, I think it comes down to an experience thing. And I hate that that's where my head is at the moment, I think.
It's interesting because I think experiences, Super Bowls really do matter. But there have been a lot of people, and I was born in 1997. I was around for most of the run of the Eagles with Donovan McNabb and Andy Reid in the mid-2000s. And there was the one team in 2004 with Terrell Owens that they added. And that's one of the teams where people say, damn, that team was great. I don't know how they didn't win the Super Bowl. In 2017, they took down the Patriots with Nick Foles as a backup.
Yeah.
And that was still a good team. But this Eagles team, a lot of fans have been saying, if they finish off this season, this is the greatest Eagles team of all time. And I think even if they don't finish off this Super Bowl, you want to talk about talent all over the board and how dominant they've been throughout most of the season. This is a damn good Eagles team. And it's one of those teams where, they make it to the Super Bowl and you would think they would be a shoo-in to win it.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Patrick Mahomes is on the other side, if there's ever a team that you think would take them down and take Patrick Mahomes down, you think it would be this Eagles team. And I do think the only way that the Eagles will win, like I said, passing the ball is going to be key in this game. But defensively, they have to show up, because that has been the strength of the Eagles the entire season. The offense has been good. Offensively, they've been really good. And this was because of a healthy Jalen Hurts, but we don't know. I think it's purely a bluff that he says his shoulder is okay.
And you also have to consider, too, Mahomes' ankle. High ankle sprains just don't go away like that. And, hey, I get I'm not a professional athlete. I'm the furthest thing from a professional athlete. But as someone who's had a high ankle sprain, that shit lingers.
Yeah.
I was on crutches for weeks. And granted, I definitely could have been off of them earlier, but it was either crutches for however many weeks it was, or surgery, because a sprained ankle is just torn tendons in your ankle at the end of the
Yeah.
So, I mean, you saw what high ankle sprains have done to people like Saquon throughout his entire career. They're horrible. I mean, shout out to Patrick Mahomes for whatever Brett Favre diet he's on, that he can play through this. but it's impressive. I mean, shout out to Jalen Hurts too, with the playing through the shoulder injury. It sucks that we're not going to see the two of them in peak physical condition heading into this game. But I genuinely still think this is going to be a Super Bowl that we are going to remember for a very, very long time.
And a very specific reason. Something is going to stand out. And I'm going to tell you, it's either going to be two things. Number one, it's either going to be the running game of the Eagles, or at least it's going to be on both sides.
Yep.
The running game of the Eagles, or Hassan Reddick potentially breaking the sack record in the Super Bowl, because he's been unblockable in this postseason. On the Chiefs side, Patrick Mahomes, you know something? I hate to do this because it's so early in his career. He has so much more to do, but this is bordering on being a legacy game for him, because you don't want to be known as a guy who's undisputed the best quarterback in football, maybe the best player in football, and you have lost two of your 3 Super Bowls. You don't want that. And I don't give a damn what the level of competition is. I don't give a damn who you're playing. And granted, I will say the first Super Bowl that he did lose, his offensive line they didn't come to play. They revamped their entire offensive line. Now it's on him. It's on him to really get this done. And who am I to go against him at this point?
I know
against him. I will. I'm picking the Eagles.
Man, I don't know if it's the East Coast bias versus the Midwest bias here, or what. Two of us. I fully understand your logic, right? I mean, the Eagles' pass rush has been out of this world. We'll see how Mahomes' ankle really does hold up, if he's able to evade the pressure like he needs to. I mean, honestly, that's what it's going to come down to, is Mahomes' ankle more than Hurts' shoulder, I think. In this game. And you mentioned this as a legacy game for Patrick Mahomes. I think this is more of a legacy game for Andy Reid than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Because people don't talk enough about how good of a coach Andy Reid is at an all-time level. They talk about him as being this mastermind offensive innovator, right? He's won everywhere he's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, he's facing the franchise in the Super Bowl here that fired him when they probably shouldn't have. I mean, they probably should have never gotten rid of Andy Reid, if we're being completely honest. But if Andy Reid wins another one here in Kansas City, in my mind, that probably puts him on the Mount Rushmore of NFL coaches, I think.
So it's interesting, because we would have to nail down who exactly is on the Mount Rushmore now and who will we take out. Because Bill Belichick is there. You could maybe put Parcells on there. You could put maybe Tom Landry on there.
Yeah, that was...
Don Shula could be on there, even though he had the one Super Bowl and then everything else was, But it's interesting.
As much as it sucks to say, I don't want to put George Halas on there. I mean,
because that's pre-merger, so I wouldn't put him there.
Lombardi might. I mean, you might have to put Lombardi on there.
That was a name that was escaping me.
Yeah, Lombardi, just out of necessity. I mean, the Super Bowl trophy is named after him for a reason. But I think the top 3 undoubtedly are probably Lombardi, Walsh, and Belichick, and then
Walsh too.
And then it depends how much longer Andy Reid goes for, because I also, if they win here, would not be surprised to see him ride off into the sunset.
And he would have every right to. He would every right in the world. And the thing is too, I think regardless of whether he retires or he stays, they could lose whatever guy. But I will say this. The Chiefs draft extremely well. I don't know if people realize, but they draft very, very freaking
Yeah.
well. And by the way, Ryan Poles was in that room too, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
But they draft very well. So even if like he wins the Super Bowl and want to keep going, guess what? The success is not going
Nope,
anywhere. As long as Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback, the success is not going anywhere.
Is as bad as it sounds, it does just come down to who's under center in Kansas City. But
Absolutely.
you saw what he was able to do with freaking Alex Smith.
And you know what? That is the difference in the Chiefs being a Super Bowl contender or a team that could get out the first round. And that's with all due respect to Alex Smith, because he was good.
Mm-hmm.
When Patrick Mahomes is different.
Yeah, it's a couple of different legacy games here. And two, I mean, for Jalen Hurts, I mean, this is an opportunity. I think I don't necessarily view Jalen Hurts as a rushing first quarterback. I know a lot of people do. I personally don't. But this is huge for people who say that having a running quarterback can't win you a game. I can't win you the big one.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. If Jalen Hurts, how old is Jalen Hurts? 25?
I think so.
If he is able to win in his second full season as a starter, a Super Bowl leading his team as the number one seed as a quote unquote running back, I think that's going to change a lot of the narrative you have behind quarterbacks who like to run the football.
So also what's interesting about the Super Bowl for Jalen Hurts' perspective too is that Howie Roseman had a conundrum at quarterback after Nick Foles was the one who won the Super Bowl for the Eagles and not Carson Wentz.
Yep.
And Carson Wentz was the one who ended up getting paid, but ends up they was having buyer's remorse not too long after that. So what's interesting to me is that if Jalen Hurts doesn't win a Super Bowl and plays bad, you wonder how much longer is he going to have to prove that he's going to be the franchise quarterback, as crazy as that sounds, because up until the injury, he was an MVP candidate. And I think if you're Howie Roseman, you're thinking, man, I've seen this before. Where have I seen this before? And you've seen it before with a guy that was going to win the MVP, and people are now questioning if he was the quarterback that entire season, would they even make it to the Super Bowl in the first place?
Man, oh man, that's
a crazy thought.
That's a thought that not once had popped into my head. Not once, because I think I would like to think that Philadelphia has learned from that.
You would think so.
But, I mean, then again, Nick Foles wasn't the guy either. At the end of the day, Foles and Wentz weren't the guy. Neither of them ended up being the guy. But there's just something different about Hurts than those two. And I think it comes down to the locker room. Every guy in that locker room wants to play for Jalen Hurts. No offense to Gardner Minshew. There was no guy in that locker room when Jalen Hurts was ruled healthy enough to play football that were like, fuck this. We need Gardner Minshew to stay in at quarterback.
Right.
That didn't happen with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting scenario I definitely did not think about.
And the thing is, too, I number one, when Jalen Hurts got drafted, the writing was on the wall, and it wasn't coming from just Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman drafted him for a reason. That was to tell Carson Wentz, you need to get your shit together. But you really think about the history of Philadelphia Eagle quarterbacks. Donovan McNabb was the longest tenured one in the most recent memory. They went the Kevin Kolb route. They went the Michael Vick route. They went the route of, I feel like I'm missing someone, Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where Carson Wentz came in. Carson Wentz didn't last as long as we thought he was. I think that kind of buyer's remorse creeps in if, number one, he doesn't win the Super Bowl, but what if his production drops off next year? And crazy enough, the most success he's had with quarterbacks that are at this moment in time, prior to this game, are those who have been on a rookie contract. So that's something to consider if you're thinking about paying him.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought to leave us with as we wrap up Super Bowl discussion, Brandon. But before we move on, let me get your final score prediction for Sunday.
Oh, wow. I'm going to go 31-23 Philadelphia.
Okay. I was thinking, personally, I have 27-23 Kansas City.
Okay.
So I'm excited. I'm a lot more.
Very.
I mean, it's going to be a great game, but the last time we were here, we were very excited about the Royal Rumble. The event as a whole, it was good. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
It's predictable, and predictability is not always a bad thing. I think that's something that wrestling fans need to come to terms with, is that predictability can be okay.
Execution is the most important thing.
Exactly. The execution of Rhea Ripley being number one entrant, lasting the entire Royal Rumble, winning the Women's Royal Rumble match. Perfect. It proved to us how much of a badass she was, even though we all knew that.
Yep.
No one was going to win that Royal Rumble other than Cody Rhodes if it was not Dwayne, if it was not The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Did I love Cody coming out at 30? No. But I just, whatever. Him and Walter had as great of a end to a Rumble as there's been since Shawn Michaels.
Undertaker. Yep. Yes.
I mean, they were in there for a legit almost 8 minutes of just the two of them, and made me want to see a Cody and Walter match down the line.
Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers.
Gunther, sorry, I'm catching.
It's okay. We know.
Whatever. Regardless, it established him as a star, and it looks like we are now heading towards Brock Lesnar and Gunther at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
because it's going to be Lashley and Lesnar at the Elimination Chamber. I don't know if they go for the fluky finish or what, but should be a great match at the Chamber. The Chamber is shaping up to be a very, very good card.
Yeah.
You have Lashley and Lesnar. You have Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. You have the Women's Chamber match to be the number one contender for Bianca Belair. The United States Chamber match, which I do want to talk about that. We'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal WWE Championship in Sami's hometown of Montreal after he turned on the Bloodline following the main event of the Royal Rumble. And I just want to give like a quick round of applause.
Absolutely.
Because this has been as good of storytelling that we've ever seen in WWE. And
absolutely.
I stand by that statement. Like, people throw around the phrase cinema all the time on wrestling Twitter. This is truly the first time I feel it's warranted.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm not ashamed to admit this, but wrestling from an emotional standpoint has never made me feel a damn thing. Never.
I agree.
And the thing is too,
I will say this. I did shed a tear one time watching wrestling, and it was a lot older in life than I would like to admit. And it was Kofi Kingston winning the WWE Championship. That is the only time it's ever happened, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. But this storyline, I agree. It's genuinely making you feel something, and that's when you know they're doing something right.
Absolutely. And the closest I came was Kofi winning the championship. It was a beautiful moment. But this storyline, like, and granted, this is solely of me knowing what happened on Monday, which we will get into. But how great is this storyline that there's so many layers to it? Like, other than Sami Zayn walking getting the shit kicked out of him, Jey Uso leaked because he didn't want to see it.
Yep.
What's going to be the beef between the Jay and Jimmy? What's going to be the beef with Solo? Well, how is Sami Zayn going to respond? Whereas Kevin Owens come into this, there are so many layers to this storyline, and I'm going to be honest with you. As Roman beat the crap out of Sami Zayn, I was tearing up. And here's the thing: the reason why I can probably justify this is because what people don't really realize is that wrestling is a TV show. It is not real, and we know it is scripted. And the thing is, there are people who are non-wrestling fans or who are ashamed of wrestling fans that think that watch it because we think that it's real. But the reality is that the non-wrestling fans believe that the non-wrestling fans are more ignorant to wrestling fans than the actual wrestling fans. And that's the funniest thing. But I shed a tear.
Yeah.
When it happened.
That's a good point, because my friends who did not grow up watching wrestling are the only people I know who give me shit for still watching wrestling. I don't get it from my friends who grew up watching wrestling, because they get it. They'll still tune in from time to time. They're not. People are taking notice of this storyline in particular.
Yes, they are.
Seeing it online, but everyone thinks wrestling fans are still it's still real to me. Damn it! If you see, I mean, it is. As my mom has said my entire life, wrestling is soap opera for men.
Absolutely. That's the perfect way to put it.
And it is. There's no denying it, but it is called World Wrestling Entertainment for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's at its best when that entertainment aspect is firing on all cylinders.
And you can't say that because there's a certain group of people who's going to attack you for that.
You're right. I apologize. I prefer when there's 3 630 centons in Phoenix splashes. Yeah, you're right. My bad. That's when it's at its best. But there's so many different ways they could take this storyline, right? The only thing I do not want to see is them feel like they need to shoehorn Sami Zayn into the title match at Mania. And so I did not originally feel this way. After SmackDown on Friday, with Sami coming out, spearing Roman, telling Roman, I didn't want to take anything from you, but now I do. And get the absolute piss beat out of him. I was like, holy shit, I don't know what they're going to do here. Like, genuinely no idea. Like, in the back of my head, I thought, is there a shot that he somehow wins in Montreal?
Yeah.
He's not going to. There's no scenario where he does. But Monday rolls around, and I could not want Sami Zayn further away from him and Roman's match at WrestleMania than I ever thought I would. And I hope it ends with Sami and Kevin at this point winning the tag titles. As much as it sucks, Sami has earned himself a world title. He has earned himself a world title run with this. There is no doubt about it. There's the two most over people in the entire company right now are Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes. And
I don't think it's close.
And they just so happen to be involved and intertwined with the same storyline. It was really, really interesting to me to see how they were going to navigate this. And with one promo on Monday night, they made you care about a Roman and Cody match, in my opinion. And that's as good of a promo segment you have seen in WWE in God knows how long, between Cody and Heyman.
And you know what's funny too? I actually really, really dislike long-winded promos. I genuinely despise them.
I usually do as well.
Because I zone out. Maybe it's a me problem. Maybe my attention is just not there. But the one thing about me, because I love chaos. So Paul Heyman, being the messy man that he is, dropping that line about Dusty wanting Roman as a son, it's like
hook, line, and sinker. Hook, line, and sinker. That was the line that made you care about this match.
Absolutely. And you know something? I actually want to go a little bit outside of the whole Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes angle. I can't believe, even after Royal Rumble, because even before that, I always thought it was ridiculous. But the thing that there is still a discussion about who is not only the best in the world, but the best heel in the business. I think it is incredibly disrespectful for MJF to even be in the same conversation as Roman.
Yeah.
It's not close. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's never really been that close.
No.
And the one thing that separates these two, one can build a storyline just off the actions. The other one is going to get a reaction with cheap ass insults.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. And you see what's more impactful when people who don't watch wrestling or maybe been tuned out of the WWE for a time because they think that real wrestling is cool. But he's the one that gets you to be interested. He's the guy. He elevates everybody. Because if you told me back in June or July that Sami Zayn being involved in a program with him was going to go anywhere, I'd have said,
I love Sami Zayn.
Right back in the same cycle.
I love Sami Zayn, but it did not seem believable.
Absolutely.
And it is a testament to Roman, I think, that the two hottest stories in all of wrestling now involve him. They involve him. The two single hottest stories. And at this point in time, it's not even close. That there is not even another story in the same vicinity right now that people are caring about to this level. And I think it's a testament too to how well they built the Mania matchup on Monday night, that you are not bashing on Cody Rhodes. I think not that you're against Cody Rhodes, but you're not a fan of Cody Rhodes. You don't hide it. I'm the Cody Rhodes fan on this show, but you're cool with them having a match at Mania despite how hot Sami is.
And the thing is too, I've accepted the fate that Cody Rhodes is going to be champion at the end of Mania. I've accepted it is what it is. The matches are going to be good. And the thing is, I think I've grown to a point where if the matches can be cool, but I feel like I'm at this point in my life, I'm past the ultra baby face character. It's just not for me. And I think like it's gone back to John Cena when he had his full-time run. And then when he started to be kind of an asshole and really putting people in the dirt with his promos, Roman Reigns, I was like, I like this guy. I really do. But I have to look at this through a non-biased lens. And because of that, it made me really, really care about this match now. And I don't think it was ever a matter of Cody's going to bore me to death on the route to this match, because I knew the promo was going to be good, but it exceeded my expectations. Was what I'm really heading at. It exceeded my expectations beyond belief, and it was awesome to see. Like all of it was just awesome to see.
And I think my takeaway too from these last few weeks is that the internet is so different from real life.
Oh yeah.
Everyone has said that, oh, the internet's going to turn on Cody. The internet is going to turn on Cody. Like, guess what? The minute that theme song hits, he's getting the biggest pop every night. They're singing the words, and it's
kids dressing like him.
Yeah.
You haven't seen this as John Cena?
Yeah, no, you haven't. You haven't. And I'll say this, I don't think Cody is untouchable as a babyface either. I expect a heel turn at some point from him. He is not at that John Cena level where they will not turn him heel. I mean, you've seen with Roman. If they'll turn Roman heel, they'll turn anyone heel at this point.
And the best thing about it is too, because looking back on
it, he is better as a heel.
That, but also, I think what the issue was with John Cena's run is that outside of Shawn Michaels and Triple H, that was at the tail end of their active career, they didn't have that second guy. Randy Orton is not a natural babyface. It was never going to be a case of him being a natural babyface. The only person that could have done that was CM Punk, who also is not a natural
Nope.
babyface. So
I mean, they had their guy. It was Jeff Hardy. He couldn't, unfortunately, he has his own personal issues and it couldn't happen. You have more than enough guys on the roster right now who could just slide into that number one babyface role. And for those of you watching, listening, if you haven't seen it, just go watch some of Cody Rhodes' work as the Ring of Honor World Champion. Even if it's not your cup of tea, it just goes to show you how good he actually is as a heel. And you might think he's good now. He was so much better as a heel, and
yeah,
genuinely hope we get to see him as a heel in the WWE because I think it could be interesting, and I could see him creating some type of faction like a legacy.
God, we think just alike.
I mean, like
just alike.
Eventually, man, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen eventually.
It's literally my WWE 2K23 storyline that I wanted to create if I create a stable. But yeah, so like literally, I can see him being some type of mastermind, just sending guys to attack, kind of like how Randy Orton was, but just a more vocal Randy Orton. Like it could be just exactly like that.
And it'll work. I mean, I have no idea who it'll be with, but it'll work.
It will work. 1000% will work.
So I'm really interested though to see how the rest of this build is going to go to Mania, because Elimination Chamber is going to tell us a lot. And it's not going to tell us a lot from who's going to be a world champion perspective. It's going to tell us a lot whether the Usos are going to be heading into Mania as tag team champions.
So quick note on that. They're going to need to find a conclusion to the Usos thing because they cannot go to Quebec.
I know. So that's the thing. They're not going to lose to Ricochet and Braun Strowman on a
definitely not.
So that's just not going to happen. I don't know if they're going to work that Jay couldn't be there into the storyline. Like, not that he couldn't be there. I mean, they're just going to say, "Oh, you weren't there. You weren't there to help us take out Kevin Owens," because KO is going to pop up. And does that lead to a Jay and Jimmy match at Mania? I don't know. I don't know how they split the tag titles, but at that point, does it end up being Jimmy and Solo versus Sammy and Jay for the tag team titles?
I feel like that could be the route, but the two things. Number one, I feel like if Matt Riddle's recovered, that's going to be the Solo match. But two, if that match does indeed go through, where does Jay come into that equation? Does he do a run-in or what?
I don't know the route they're going to take it, because if he is there, I think it's a super kick to Sammy and he realigns, and realistically, I think that's what it'll be.
Yeah.
But fantasy booking in my head, I just was like, oh man, wouldn't that be interesting? Jay and Sammy versus Solo and Jimmy. I don't know, man. It's this amount of uncertainty is a good thing.
Very good.
Genuinely a good thing, because I also think there's going to be a new U.S. champion coming out of Elimination Chamber.
Ooh, let me see if we're on the same page. Who do you think is walking out of there?
Call me crazy. I think Johnny Gargano.
It's either going to be him, or they're going to have Logan Paul challenge for the United States Championship, or it could be Seth Rollins.
You see, I don't think Seth is going to win this match. I think Seth is going to somehow be screwed out of this by Logan Paul to set up their Mania match.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Logan Paul doesn't need a title match. Logan Paul is great. He can go.
Yeah.
Does not need a title match at Mania. I would love to see, because if Theory loses the title here, it's going to be Theory and Cena. I know that's being heavily rumored, and that match does not need the title. People are going to be pissed. Cena's going to win that match. Whatever. Theory's 24. He'll get over it. I mean, he's has a WrestleMania match with John Cena. He's gonna be okay.
Are we sure that Cena's going to win that match?
I think he will. I think he will. Just because, off the top of your head, when is John Cena? Not that it matters because it's John Cena,
Right.
but when is John Cena's last major pay-per-view victory?
Wow.
Yeah,
I want to say
think
it was
about that.
AJ Styles.
Yeah,
At the Royal Rumble. I think it was
Yeah.
the last one because I'm not counting that Nikki Bella stuff. So I'm going with the AJ Styles match.
no, but like honestly, think about that. And I do think then having someone like Gargano win, or even having someone like Damian Priest win the title back, who knows?
Yeah.
You can bring back a multi-man ladder match,
Which I think would be the route if Theory loses.
If Theory loses, I think it'll be a multi-man ladder match at Mania, which I love. I love there being a multi-man. I wish they would just bring Money in the Bank back to WrestleMania. That's just me, but and then U.S. title, if maybe it will be Brock and Gunther. Who could you imagine that, man? Because you sure as hell know Brock is not winning that title.
Oh yeah. He would win it and throw it into the crowd.
Yeah, man. I mean, if it's not Brock and Gunther, it's gonna be Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew, which sign me the hell up.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, and this is gonna be very unpopular. I went the triple threat instead of Gunther and Lesnar. Call me crazy.
I think I do too.
But
from a pure entertainment perspective, yes.
Yeah.
From establishing a new guy, even though I do think Gunther established himself at the Rumble.
Yeah.
But a WrestleMania win over Brock Lesnar?
That would be something. I mean, if that would be him kind of getting fast tracked to him being the next guy to dethrone Cody when all said and done.
I do think he will be the guy to dethrone Cody too.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's up for debate. Who will
Yeah.
He's earned it, man. Imperium it's good shit, man. Imperium.
Yeah.
We're in a good place, a lot better place right now than we were last year as wrestling fans. I'll say that.
I'll tell you what they're doing with these PLEs now is really, really great because you have so much time to build. You have so much time to create.
Yep.
And the fact that you can put yourself in a position where you can stack the lesser pay-per-views like Elimination Chamber, Extreme Rules, Survivor Series, well, not Survivor Series, but stuff like that. Like you have time to build that. And that's great because you can stack it and then nothing's going to look stale.
Mm-hmm.
So that part's amazing.
Yeah, man. So we'll have to touch base again next week. Just see where we're at. But Elimination Chamber's coming up quick, man. It's exciting times and good times to be a wrestling fan. Good time to be a football fan. It's a good time for this show.
Absolutely.
Going on, man.
Absolutely.
Good time going on. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up this week's show. Like, share, subscribe, give us a rating, review. We appreciate all the support. We'll be back next week.
Right.